Hello again, it's Lock Noob, and today we get to look at something I think really exciting. This is the new MultiPick Ares opening system, which was a collaboration between MultiPick and Captain Hook Number 1, who some of you will know, and it's really very cool indeed. Now, for full disclosure, this was sent to me for free by MultiPick for the purposes of this review, but it's not a paid review or thoughts of my own. I have worked with MultiPick in the past on some designs, and I probably will continue to work with them in the future, or at least I hope so. And I think that's all the disclosure I need to give you. So what actually is this Ares opening system? Well, first of all, I mean, I won't refer to it again probably in this whole video, but I just love these cases, where, you know, these little plastic hard cases with the foam and all the cutouts. It just really appeals to me. I know I'm a bit of a child, and it's such a cliche for a bloke to like this kind of stuff, but I collect tools. This is so nice. I just really like the aesthetics. But what is the actual tool itself? Well, it's actually a 2-in-1 lockpick for not only your high security dimple locks. Here is a blade, and you can see the flag there. I'm rotating with the tool. It actually has interchangeable tips for disc detainer locks as well, front and rear tensioning, so you can use different blades. Here's another blade for different types of lock here. There's all sorts of flags here. There's front tensioning and rear tensioning disc detainer tools. Let's just grab a few of the bits and I'll show you what it comes with. So the kit comes with all of these little containers. Let's empty some of these out and see what we get. So the first one actually has a disc turner. This is to take your disc detainer lock, there it is, and you can put this in. You can rotate the discs clockwise or anti-clockwise, so the tool will fit in nicely down into the keyway for you to turn those discs. I don't think I've seen any other pick manufacturer make one of these tools. I made them myself, they're kind of handy, but I've never seen anyone make them commercially, which is interesting. Okay, the next one here is a flag tip, and you'll see, and this is a great design. This is a through design, so I don't know if this is the right tip for this blade, but this dimple flag will slide down and look, goes straight through here. This is really well thought out, and yeah, this is very cool. These are very hard tips as well. I don't know what metal they use, but it is very hard. That's all I do know. So you get these tips. Like I said, it's really cool because it just passes through there. It's not all interlocked, and there you go. So you've got another tip there, and it does have a number on it. So you can see that this one is the 833, for example. So that's really good to help you identify them. It tells you on the blade that this is for this is the D6X, for example. That will be significant in a minute. What's this one? Another flag. This one seems to be a longer, straighter flag. Again, very useful. It's got its little serial number on there, which is critical for identifying it. And then yes, the first of our disc detainer tips. This one is the rear tensioning tip, which means it'll work in pretty much most of the rear tensioning disc detainer locks. Not all of, but many of the ones that you'll see around. So this is just a rear tensioning tip. Very cool. And I think last but certainly not least is the front tensioning tip, which means that this will work in a lot of the front tensioning locks that you see around as well. So that's really cool. The 2-in-1 tool itself obviously has the back part and the front part, and depending on whether you're using, say, a front tensioning tip or a rear tensioning tip, that will depend on which bit you tension with and which bit you turn with. It depends entirely what tip you use, but they are both independently movable like this. There's also a little collar around here, and you can see there's a little marker on this, let's call it the handle for now. You'll see that as I rotate this or as I rotate that, depending which way around you're looking, you can see that it's got a graduated ring or collar here, which is very useful to get those precise measurements. Say, for example, you wanted to measure a pin depth in a dimple lock when you set it, you could theoretically do that with this. It also has another little ring, which all of this can be taken apart. So, for example, if I just slide that through like this, you can see it's actually in two parts. I can then put different collars on. So this is for 6 depths or rotate or angles, if you like, of a disc detainer lock if you want to put that one on instead. You'll also notice that there is a little extra collar that fits on here, and this one is graduated for the dimple locks, so that aligns with the pins, and this one aligns with discs. So you can see this goes up to 12 discs for a dimple lock, and that can be slid on and screwed on as well. All this is made of aluminium and steel alloy, which is really cool, and then anodized with that nice finish. It's got it looks like a little plastic insert there, which just means that it doesn't isn't abrasive on the tool. It slides in and out there really nicely. It's really cool that you just get all these little bits to sort of customize it between the disc detainer pick and the dimple lock tips that come in there as well. Obviously, you've got your little hex screws there to take off the tips, well, the blades, and you've got other little hex screws in here to allow you to swap out your tips in here as well. Yeah, really, really well thought out. And this also comes with some little red anodized handles, which if you want to have a little bit more torque, then you can apply these to your tool as well. And there's enough places where you could put these handles in, so you can put them wherever you want, just one, just two, whichever angle that pleases you really. And they have a little ring on there as well to stop you from scratching your tool, and it lets it seat down properly, which is quite nice. Personally, I found that you don't really need these handles. I think it might encourage you to over torque, so you know, use them if you want, but just be careful, because it will give you a more leverage. These little grooves here, I find, for my fingers at least, can you see these ones I'm rubbing my index finger on? That for me gives enough grip, and including these little rubber ribs, to basically pick all the locks that I've tried to pick with this. So the handles are there if you would like them, but I don't think you need them. And it's just, I find it easier and just as comfortable to use these little grips. I've not seen that on a tool before, but I really appreciate them. What else have I got? Ah, yeah, a little box of spare stuff. Let's open this up. I've already used one of the grub screws to put in this ring. But yeah, in here are just some spare screws, grub screws and things like that. I'm sure you can buy these off the shelf, but it's always nice to have a few spares just in case. These bits are small, and no doubt when you least expect it, you'll drop it on the carpet while you're changing stuff out, and it's always good to have a spare. Got some hex keys in there as well. And last but not least is this tool, which looks like a little piece of bent wire with a flattened end, and it is. And that is just so when you're picking your dimple locks, if you accidentally push the flag in too far and turn it around, you get yourself lost and trapped behind pins, which does happen no matter what tool you're using with dimple locks. This is just to go in there and push down the pins and allow you to retract the tool without damaging anything. So just a really nice little extra in there, which I think is a really nice thoughtful addition. And you all have been in that situation if you've picked enough dimple locks. I know that for sure. And yeah, putting this together in terms of that flag tip and this blade, very easy. Again, just passes through like this, and yeah, allows you to align that straight. So that there, for example, is on the 0. That's the line. You see my flag here is nice and flat, and that means that I know where I'm turning the tip. So I'm turning it down. I can see that on the markings here as a guide. Very, very useful. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything that comes in the kit. It also comes with a little card which tells you what scale you need. So here is the scale. It tells you what the pick tips you need on it as well. So again, you've got the codes on here. So that's again really useful. It tells you what brands that these tips are used for and the model. So ABUS D6X 550. This is supposed to be, by the way, EC 560, I believe, or 650. Can't remember which way around, but that's a little bit of a typo. But it's the extra class locks anyway. Then you've got Abus, Basi, Econ, and Wilke, so lots of German locks here. In terms of the disc detainer ones, I mean, it's got the Abloy disc lock, Abus Plus and X Plus, but they do so many more locks because they are really just a front and a rear tensioning set of tips. So they're not limited by any means to these three disc detainer models. The key blades, however, for the 2-in-1 dimple lock pick configuration, these are very specific to a narrow range of locks with specific keyways, because of course all lock brands have very unique warding, although some of course do overlap, which is kind of cool. But yeah, you've got to make sure that your blade itself here, so that's this, I've got the EC551 and the DX6, but if you want to pick these other locks, then you'd have to get the separate blades and the right flag for them. But that's what I guess the advantage of this system is it can be expanded as MultiPick bring out extra tips to many different lock types. Where to go now? I think we need to see some demos. Okay, before inserting the tool, I'll make sure that my collar's adjusted, the flags are all level, I have no friction here, or very little, my marker's all aligned, all of that kind of stuff, and forgive the rain if you hear any rain, it's just very rainy here in the UK. And then what I do is I keep the flag flat and in position 1 and just push the whole blade in. You should tension anti-clockwise using the grip here, and pick the flags, pick using the flag using this clockwise, because it's easier. You can tell the counter rotation of any spools a lot easier. If you need to pick a lock in the clockwise direction, I would still pick it this direction, then use a plug spinner. In fact, the bigger Ares kit does come with 2 of these handles and a plug spinner for that purpose, I think. So anyway, we're just going to go through on each pin in turn, and if it feels like it's binding, just turn it a little bit more, listening for any change or feedback. It's pin 3 now, nothing there, 4, nothing there, 5, nothing there, and then 6, nothing there yet. Okay, so increase the tension, nothing. 1, 2 now, 3, 4's binding, nothing on 5, 6 binding now, and it'll click. Back to 5, nothing, 4, nothing, 3's binding, it'll click, 2 now, nothing, 1, little click, 2's now binding, and just need to wiggle past that. There we go, into a bit of a false set. Check 3, little click, 4, feels good, 5 now, little click, and we are open, which is very cool. So I've adjusted everything nicely for this new tip. There's the blade, there's that curved flag, all nicely in a vise. Pull that back to the first position, slot this in. You'll notice I've got the handles on this time. If you're at the front of the lock, you might be working like this. I'm going to be working like this because I don't have the lock in a door and I need the stability. So yeah, you just go through 1 pin at a time, see if there's anything binding. So there's nothing on pin 1 binding here. Pin 2, nothing. Pin 3 feels like it's binding because you have to put a little bit of pressure on the pick tip to get it to move. A little click there. This is pin 4 now. I felt that was a nice little click. 5, again, just might loosen tension to just slide that pick over the pick tip over the pin and click. That feels okay. Then same again for pin 6 at the back. Little click. Okay, good. It's got some nice clicks out of this. Just test nothing on 1 now. That feels fine. 2. I think that's good. 3 feels good. 4 feels good. 5 feels good. And 6 feels good. Okay, so when you're at this point, it just means that you're probably just under on a couple of pins. So you're going to go along, just tap the tops and make sure that we are fully, yes, pin 5 wasn't fully set there, and back to 6, just tap, 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 a little click, good, and back through again. I feel that we're almost there. 1, 2 feels good, 3 feels good, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes with these high security locks, you just need to see that went in a bit of false set. You do need to just tap the tops of some of those pins where there's a little T pin there, and we've got the open, which is very, very nice indeed. Okay, so we have the kryptonite in the vise. My tool's all set up. It's free spinning. It moves in and out nice and smoothly. So that's exactly what we're looking for. Just align my tip, pop that in onto that first disc. Make sure that my tool goes all the way to the back like that, and apply torque. Make sure it's nice and free. Good. So then what we need to do is, I've got the arm on as well to provide some extra torque. Find that first disc, which is disc 7, which is here. What a lovely click we got out of that. Good. This is 6. 5's now binding. 4 now. Lovely click. 3. Okay, so I think I missed out a disc. So that's 2 actually. This is 3. Yeah, that's 4 now. Three, 2 and 1. So let's go back again. So this is 7. Sorry, 7. That feels good. 6 feels good. 5. Okay. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. So what I need to do is put the tension on the last disc, turn this back, and I think we have the open. There we go. So we are in the final configuration of the tool, and this has been set up for a rear tensioning disc detainer setup. So this part becomes the tensioning tip, and this part becomes the picking tip. Now, I picked this particular ABUS Plus numerous times, so I'm pretty much aware of how it picks, but nevertheless, it will still provide a good demonstration of how the tool operates, and shorten the amount of time you have to watch me do it. Yeah, so is this limited to just the disc lock ABUS Plus and ABUS X Plus? No. in my collection, this will tension the vast majority of the rear tensioning disc detainer locks. Most disc detainer locks are rear tensioning, so this is a really good tool for that. The only thing that might be a bit different is the disc gate spacing, which is here, and the disc spacing, depth spacing here, but that might be a bit off depending on what you're picking. It might align with some, might not align with others, but you can still use it as a guide. So yeah, it's still a good 2-in-1 rear disc detainer tensioning tool. Whew, that's a bit of a mouthful. So we'll pop this in, and you have to get some nice firm tension, but not too firm, because obviously there's a bit of spring in this. You want to just get it so you do get the feedback. This tends to tension at the back and bind from the back as well. So so let's start on the last disc. Very gritty, and then it sort of feels loose there. Next disc. Moving on. Didn't get much feedback on that. Oh, hold on. I'm not on the disc properly now. No. No. And loose. So I'm going to say there. Next disc. Click. Click. And loose. So I'm going to leave it there. Next disc. Maybe I'm not central. Oh yeah, got it binding now. About there, actually. Next disc. Next disc, I think, is here. That's it. No, not getting that one. Okay. I'm going to start at the back again. Okay, start at the back, make sure that, okay, that felt good, that went into position, I could feel it. That's now nice in position, much better click this time. Next disc, nice click into that disc, next disc. Much nicer click into that disc, next disc. Last disc. Okay, so when you feel like you're almost picked, like I do now, I think I've got everything mostly into position. You just have to go back through and just test your gates. That feels good, and oh, we're open. So it's just the second disc down which wasn't fully picked. There we go. So there you go, a brief run through of just some of the many locks you could pick with this tool. And of course that is not just the ones which you see on this card, as I demonstrated with the Kryptonite. And it's at this point of the video I like to do things like pros and cons and things I'd like to see in the future. And so yeah, pros. Well, I really like what they've done with a tool in such a compact little setup like this. Everything you need is all in one case. It looks really great, at least to me. And I love the fact that you can go from something like a front tensioning disc detainer lock configuration to a rear tensioning disc detainer lock configuration, and then you can switch over to the blades that you have with the flags to pick whatever dimple locks you have that are compatible with the kit. I mean, there are tools out there that I know do some of this. Like there are definitely 2-in-1 dimple lock picking tools. There are definitely front tensioning and rear tensioning disc detainer tools, and also ones which can swap between front, center and rear tensioning disc detainer tools. But I've not seen one tool which has so artfully managed to do disc detainers and dimple locks all in the same go. I've personally found the small details to be some of the most important details on this. I love the fact, for example, that you can just change these rings out, these radial scale rings, depending on the type of lock or scale that you're picking or the scale that you want. And what's more important is that you can move the scale slightly in and out, as well as a left rotation, right rotation, to just finely adjust the scale on the pick depending on the lock that you're picking. It's really, really cool. I really like that little detail. Other little details I love are the fact that it says dropping bits everywhere, are just like simple little things, like the fact that the flags pass through the blades on the dimple lock picks, and it's a lot easier than you think to swap out your tension tip and picking tip on the dimple lock turners. That being said, you do have to take care to make sure when you set this up that you align everything properly, that you just finger tighten everything to begin with before you then go around and gently tighten each of the grub screws in turn to make sure everything stays centered. If anything's sort of off center because you've over tightened some of the grub screws, it will actually impart some drag on the tool. So you do have to be a little bit careful to take your time when you're setting up this tool. So yeah, in terms of pros, I just think that this is really one of the first of its kind in terms of commercially available multi-tools, in terms of being able to pick your dimple locks and your disc detainers. I think that that's definitely worthy of some praise. In terms of cons, there really isn't much in terms of cons, really. There is a smaller set than this. There's a bigger set with two of these tools and a plug spinner, so you can sort of adapt to your own personal needs. I think the only general con to a set like this is that, unlike a specific tool for a specific lock or type of lock, if you're going between different types of locks, there is a 10-minute downtime while you're taking it apart, putting it back together, making sure that it's all adjusted to your liking before you can then go on to your next lock type. I don't think that's a big sacrifice to make for having a nice compact all-in-one tool like this, but I do think it is a consideration when you're buying this. If you want to go between picking your dimple locks or front and rear tensioning, there is going to be that downtime while you switch between the elements. I found, however, that the quality of the tool and the way that it works is brilliant. It just really does work. I know that I've already gone through the pros, but I do want to shout out again these little finger grips on here. I found them to be incredibly helpful in terms of just being able to provide some torque, so you don't over torque the tool and risk damaging any of the tips. As strong as they are, you put too much torque on any tool, you risk damaging it. In terms of things I'd like to see in the future, well, just more expansions, really. I can tell why German companies focus on things like Abus, Econ and Wilke and Bassi, which are very common German brands in terms of their dimple lock blades. But it'd be great if they did also things like Avocet Yale dimple locks, things like Tessa, the T60, T80, things like the multi-lock Garrison and Integrator, those kind of things. So it'd be really great to see some blades being developed for those locks. In terms of the disc detainer tips, I think you've got front and rear. The only thing that I'd like to see is more scales for more different locks. For example, Baton, Ankelas, I'm just trying to think of other ones out there, Girder, those kind of things, Kryptonite even. It'd be great to have different rings just available. I can't believe they'd be very expensive either, just to give you different scales for your disc spacings. That'd be really great to see. Another thing I'd like to see is that this tool would be developed to pick maybe even lever padlocks. I think it's a really great size for that. You can stick these arms in, of course, to provide that bit more tension that you would require for maybe a lever lock. But I can just imagine using this in, things like a Walsall Ace or a Squire 770 or a just trying to think, a Chubb cruiser or battleship, something like that. I think that this could easily be adapted to provide a 2-in-1 pick for some, I'm just trying to think, you know, lever padlocks, and even other lever locks. Why not mortise lever locks? Why not safe locks? I don't know. I mean, anything where you have 2 tips and need to rotate. I think this tool could easily be adapted to that. So, I mean, I really can't wait to see what happens to this tool in the future insofar as expansions go. Now, how much does this cost? Well, this medium set, this is the one in the middle, costs 400 at the time of filming, and today's exchange rates and all those kind of things. Clearly the prices will change over time. This costs €499, which is around £429, which is around $559 or thereabouts. And that, you know, isn't objectively cheap, but when you consider what you're getting out of this, you're getting, you know, your dimple blades and flags, you're getting 2 different types of dimple turner, a multi-tool, different scales, and considering how much professional locksmith tools cost, I think this is actually a really good price for what you get. It doesn't mean that it's cheap, but I don't think it's a bad price for what you get. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Do you think that Lock and Captain Hook #1 have done a good job with this? What kind of expansions would you like to see in the future? What types of locks? I know that both of them will be reading my comments, so if you've got any comments about what you'd like to see this tool do in the future, please leave them below, because hey, if you don't ask, you don't get. Anyway, I really enjoyed playing around with this tool. I want to thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like. If you haven't subscribed and want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button for more content. And of course, I will see you all next time.